And we're back Monday night, Snowmagedon in Ontario. Holy cow. I don't know how much snow you got up there in London, Jarek, but I was absolutely snowed in. We are still snowed in. I can't get my car out. Can't drive down our parking structure because the plow hasn't come yet. It's absolutely crazy over here. Everybody got a day off work here, it seems. I know you still had to go in. The schools were supposed to open today, and that did not happen. How bad was it over there?
I don't know the exact amount of snow we got, but it was pretty crazy here. The schools from outside of the district got closed, all that stuff. The mall was kind of a ghost town today. It was actually kind of funny. There's stores that were just like, yeah, I guess we're not going in today. F it. So
Are
it
you
was
guys
it is what it is though. It's fun. It's Canada in a nutshell, and it's fun to see. You're getting some good action outside of your house today in the parking lot with everybody getting stuck. So that was some good entertainment while I was bored at work today.
Yeah, I was sitting by my window, had the beers cooling outside, and was just kind of watching everybody struggle to get their cars out or get up the ramp. And eventually, I said, you know what, I've laughed at this enough. I'm gonna go out there and lend a helping hand. So I went out there with my shovel and helped dig a couple people out. So
So you and Doug Ford were helping people dig their cars out.
yes, and it's funny you brought that up because I want to open the show with that. Doug Ford, if you don't know who he is, he's our premier of Ontario. He kind of represents Ontario. He's the reason we're in lockdown. And he was making headlines today because it seems like he just woke up, looked outside, and went, "This is something I can handle." So he hopped in his Ford F-150 and just started driving around Etobicoke, helping out random people. He was apparently towing people out of ditches, driving people home who couldn't get home, shoveling people out who were stuck. And I'm tracking this on Twitter because people were following this guy. And I go, "What are you doing, man? Like, you tweeted out this morning, stay home. It's unsafe." And then you hop in your truck and start driving around Etobicoke trying to be Batman. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And then this video came out of him helping dig out this stuck dryer. I'm going to share this with you, and I want to break down Doug Ford's form on the on on his shoveling. So this should share. There we go. All right, I'll hit play here, and yeah, we could take a quick peek. So old Dougie Ford there, he's got his emergency shovel, which I don't think people really understood that wasn't a kid shovel. People were making it sound like he pushed over a 3-year-old because he went, "Hang on, we got to get this on video," and then I can have it back. So he's digging out these people, but at the beginning there, it looks like he was hacking to win a face-off, just shoveling it between his legs, out of breath. I don't know who was recording that. Apparently, he was driving around with his PR manager. I don't know. I just thought that was really funny and kind of wraps up Ontario as it currently is right now.
I personally think that John Tavares' son was doing a better job of clearing snow than Doug Ford, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, with his plastic lawnmower. Just get a heated driveway, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the easy way out.
Yeah. So speaking of poor leaders, you wanted to open the show with Connor McDavid, and let's do that because he's had some stuff come out in the last couple days. I got 2 clips here. We'll play them, react to them. I believe the first one is about the potential signing of Evander Kane, and then oh shit, it won't open. Yes, it will. And then the next one will be about the one with the loss to the Sens, if I can get this to copy. But I want you to pay attention, especially if you haven't seen this before, to his body language, his tone, all that stuff, because doesn't really indicate what a good leader should be. And we've been noticing this about McDavid for a while now. It's really come to light in the last couple of days. So I'm just pulling this clip up here, and I will share it again. So here we are. So take a listen.
I'm not really here to discuss optic issues. You know, if fans don't like it or the media doesn't like it or whatever, I think, you know, it is what it is. You know, I'm sure there's lots of things that go on the ice and whatnot that fans don't like. And you know, we don't necessarily have to discuss those up here with you guys. So, you know, the public opinion is something that obviously matters a lot. You know, but you know, we're here to try to win games and try to you know, put together a good team on the ice. And you know, Kenny thinks that's what he can do, then that's what he can do. I think, you know, Kenny's got our full support in what he does.
So that is Connor McDavid on the potential signing of Evander Kane to the Edmonton Oilers. That was filmed on January 12th or posted on January 12th. Might have been from the night before. What did you take away from that? What's your initial reaction to that? Because we do have another clip about an actual game.
He just seems so dejected. Like he's just over it. And I don't know if it's a mixture of him wanting out. I don't know if it's a mixture of just frustration with the team losing and just not being able to win games. But and that's another thing too. He keeps bringing up the win games thing, and you're not winning games. It seems like he's trying to point fingers at, oh, optics this, optics that, and it's just, no, dude. You need to go out there and you need to win games. That's the only option you have right now is to go out there and win games, and you're not doing that. You've been gifted the best player factor or title or whatever you want to call it. You've been gifted that at such a young age when you've really done nothing to prove it. Yes, you've scored a lot of points, but you've done nothing for your team. And when it comes to what matters, I hear all the time that Matthews doesn't do this, Marner doesn't do this, Nylander doesn't do this. I hear this all the time, but at the same time, we want to tell this guy he's the best in the world, and he's doing exactly what Marner and Matthews are doing in the playoffs, and that's absolutely nothing. Yeah. Let's be honest here.
This clip came across, like, people always talk about how he's a great leader off the ice, and it didn't come across that way because he was so ignorant to what the fans and the media were saying about the potential signing of Evander Kane, when there's really no reason that you need to sign that guy with his track record and his history and, you know, giving people second chances and all that. But this wouldn't be Evander Kane's second chance. This would be his, you know, 9th or 10th or something like that. So yeah, just so oblivious. And he says, you know, we're here to win games. Like, dude, sometimes it's a little bit more than that, especially if you take in, you know, the climate of the hockey world in the last year or so. So
with that interview too, the word I would want to use is unlikable. That's what he comes across as. It's just, I don't like, this guy doesn't come across as a leader and a guy that's going to get you jacked up to play a hockey game here.
It also came across as like, I'm better than you and I don't want to or need to be here.
No, 100%. And I think that came across with the whole Ken Holland interview too. I think that's a conversation that should be a part of this as well. Is that whole interview was just like, part of my language is, what the fuck are we watching? Mm-hmm. It just was so awkward and so weird. And that those words kind of describe Connor McDavid's interviews as well. They don't come across as, I want to sit here and talk about hockey. They're just like, yeah, it seems like a teenager just sitting there being like, yeah, I don't really want to be here. That's really what it comes across as.
This was followed up by a post-game press conference on January 16th when they blew a 3-1 lead to the Ottawa Senators and eventually lost that game. This one might be even more telling of where McDavid is at with the Oilers.
I'm not sure what to tell you. You know, obviously it's been a long layoff, and come in and, you know, work ourselves to a 3-1 lead and give it away.
So you guys are playing with a lead, which is where you want to be. What do you think fell out of your game? Was it just a little bit of mental lapses there, or was it something as a group that you think just there was a lump?
I wish I had an answer for you there. You know, we're rolling along. We get a couple chances early. We don't finish them. And we give up a 2-on-1, and, you know, and then it's, yeah.
Connor, I know it's not the playoffs for losses, but when you consider, you know, where you're at, you had a 10-day break, you're 2-9-2, and you're up at home, it's 3-1, and then you lose to a 30th place team. It's one of the most frustrating regular season losses you've had.
It's definitely up there. Yeah.
All right, well, that says it.
I think Elliot Freeman summed that up best when he went, oh, at the end there. I
did enjoy that. I'm not going to lie.
Shout out Freeman's suit game recently, by the way. It might not look good, but at least he's going for it.
Hey, and shout out Elliot Freeman for shoveling his own driveway, unlike another hockey superstar.
Mr. McHeatedDriveway.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to call the episode, McHeatedDriveway. But yeah, we I look at that one and I see a guy who's like, this honestly isn't my problem anymore. I'm doing everything I can. Like Connor, you're the captain of the team. You're the so-called, I've been watching a lot of Harry Potter recently. You're the so-called chosen one. You're supposed to bring this franchise to relevancy. Do something, say something, bring something up with the GM. Who has more power there, McDavid or the GM? Because I guarantee you it's McDavid, because ownership won't want the star player, the best player in the NHL, to leave that fan base, to leave that team, to leave Edmonton, to go to, I'm sure we'll talk about in a second where we think he could go to. They don't want that. So if he says, look, we need a new direction here, we need new players in here, we need a soft rebuild, I guess you could call it, then they would be like, you know what, Connor, that's a really good idea. And I think is where this is heading, because we'll get into it in a little bit. We're going to do some mock McDavid trades. I don't think it's possible. So he's just going to have to suck it up and kind of do the problem. And I'll let you carry on with this argument, because you were talking to me about it the other night. Was it's no longer McDavid is involved in the problem. He's part of the problem. Do you want to expand on that?
No, before and okay, hear me out. I know I come across as stupid sometimes with this whole I hate McDavid thing. And obviously he's a great hockey player. He's one of the best in the world. I don't want to say he is the best. He's one of the best. But it does come across as it's McDavid and the Oilers struggling. It's two separate things. It seems sometimes it's McDavid doing well and the Oilers are struggling. The Oilers are doing well. Aren't doing well. The Oilers are failing McDavid. But at the end of the day, the Oilers just lost the game. What, correct me if I'm wrong here. It was 6-4 against the Ottawa Senators, right?
Yeah, they lost 6-4 after being up 3-1.
So that's 10 goals in the game. Let's not count the empty netter at the end. That's 9 goals in a game. McDavid factored in 0 of them against the 30th place team in the league. That's not good. That's being part of the problem. That's going out there and not executing and not doing exactly what you're supposed to do, and that's dominating against a weaker team. We talk about this with the Leafs all the time. Sometimes they go out there and they play a little bit la-la against the teams that they should dominate and they should beat easily. And that's what McDavid does right now against everybody. He goes out there, he worries about getting his 2 or 3 points a game, which he's not getting right now. And it kind of seems like he packs it in and the Oilers lose 6-5 every night. That's what it seems like.
I read a stat, I think it was at the start of this season or early into the season. McDavid has scored 79% of his points in the NHL against a bottom 17 team. So when he scores that goal or that assist or gets an empty netter, the team that he's playing is 79% of the time is in the bottom 17 of the NHL.
Which again, he should be doing that, right? Like,
he should be
dominating those
but
teams.
Why is he not stepping up in those big games, those big moments? It's a question that needs to be answered, and I'm not going to sit here and speculate as to why he can't do it, because quite frankly, it's a disgrace to hockey that this guy can't seem to get it done. I know that might be a little bit harsh, but you think after he's been in the league for 6-7 years now that he would figure it out. And not only like we're ignoring one man in this conversation, and that's Leon Draisaitl. He's got Leon Draisaitl on his line. Like tonight, he didn't. McDavid was, second line center tonight, and then Draisaitl was first line. Also, let's take a fucking look at that one. Those guys should be playing on the same line every night. But the problem there is then the rest of the team doesn't play properly. So, maybe that's another issue there. But like you're saying, if the Oilers get better, does McDavid get better, or does McDavid need to get better for the Oilers to get better? Because I think the Oilers need to get better first.
I completely agree, but at the same time, does McDavid need to start playing a different game that's going to help the players around him instead of worrying about being the first player to 100 points every season?
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I was listening to the Jeff Merrick show today with Jeff Merrick, hosted by Jeff Merrick.
Jeff Merrick.
One quote that stood out to me: McDavid and Draisaitl won't play a defensive game because they can't cherry pick their way to Art Ross and Hart trophies.
I like that. Just
thought that was interesting. He didn't really expand on it. He put that out there and teased it, but Jeff Merrick's a pretty smart guy and is very in the know. I thought that was interesting. He said that. You brought up the Oilers' struggles, like 2-10-2 in the last 14, and they haven't won since the holiday break. It's January 17th.
And hear me out on this one here. I want to bring up a point. I know I don't want to sound like I'm being the person that goes, I'm right all the time, blah, blah, blah. But before, when we first started hanging out and talking about sports, it was my opinions about McDavid were kind of like, whoa, chill, guy. Like, what are you talking about? You're talking about the best player in the world. Do you not think that my opinions about McDavid not being the best and needing to improve and be a better leader and basically mature, it's almost seeming like that's a lot that's on the mind of a lot more people that are higher up in the sports media world, that on CBC, on Sportsnet, they're talking about these things. They're going, okay, maybe McDavid's not the best right now. Maybe McDavid needs to do other things in his game to get to that other level.
And then also, like, we're going to get torched for this if this gets in the hands of Oilers fans, which, whatever, man, go ahead. By saying McDavid's not the best in the world. I ain't going to argue. He's the most skilled player in the NHL, but being the best in the league at something is more than just being able to put the puck in the net multiple times, right? You got to be able to do other things on the ice. You got to be able to defend. You got to be able to make your teammates look good. One of the best players in the world for a while was Sidney Crosby. And one thing he could do, you and I could be on his winger and he would make us look good.
Yep.
Because he was able to do that. Alex Ovechkin, same thing. Austin Matthews is heading that way. He's not there yet. You look at stars like that. They are able to do things that make other people look good. I don't know if McDavid is there yet. He's a very individualized player who it seems like he's almost padding stats at this point. And I know that's a massive accusation to make for a pro NHL player, but that's just what I'm seeing. And then
but it really seems like he's getting 4 or 5 points in those 8-5, 8-6 games. But when it comes down to those 3-1 or 3-2 games, that's when he's the 0 points, -2, -3. And it seems like, okay, is those tight checking playoff games where he really struggles? Or does he want to play that free-willed regular season game that you're not going to get that come playoff time? So is he going to be the greatest regular season player of all time? Yeah, probably. But when it comes to playoffs, that's really when it comes to how your dynasty or your legacy is made, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then another thing I want to point out with the Oilers, 2 more things. Stuart Skinner, however you want to say it. He's now essentially the starting goalie after horrible performances from Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. They have had horrendous seasons. That Mike Smith contract is something, man. Why you signed a 39-year-old to 2 years is just that blows my mind. I don't know why you would do that. It's something that is almost a fireable offense, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
So we take a look at Mike Smith this year. He's 2-2-1 with a 3.76 goals against average, which just isn't good. He's only played in 5 games or been credited with 5 games. That's not good enough. I'm just trying to find Koskinen here. I had it up earlier.
No, but in 5 games, that's usually when you need to look at stats and be blown away in a good way, not a bad way.
And then you look at Koskinen, 12-7-1. Okay, that's not bad. 12 wins, 7 losses. You're above 500, but a 3.19 goals against average. Like, it's not like, what are you doing?
And I think hear me out on this one. Do you think that the goalie stats says a lot about McDavid and Draisaitl? I think trying to get a lot of points and we're still okay with giving up a lot of goals. So it kind of goes against the goalies.
I think it says a lot about the defense, which I'll get to in a second. But I'm just looking at the goalie stats here. You got Mikko Koskinen, who is, going into the season, I'm not quite sure who I thought the Oilers starting goalie was. Like, it might have been Mike Smith, it might have been Koskinen. But looking at these stats right now, it is Stuart Skinner, and it should be, because he leads all 3 Oilers goalies in save percentages at a .907, which isn't that good, and then a goals against average of 2.93. That's not awful. But then the other guys, like Koskinen's save percentage is 900, Mike Smith's 898. You're not going to win games with that.
No,
you're not.
No.
So
and it goes back to Ken Holland's interview too. I don't quote me on this one. I believe he said something along the lines of, it's my job to do my due diligence on situations, and that was him talking about Evander Kane and checking out the status of Evander Kane's contract and where he could be able where he'd be able to sign him and how much blah blah blah. But it goes back to the offseason. It should be in your due diligence to check out goaltending and make a trade for goaltending, especially when there's a goalie out there named Marc-Andre Fleury who went for a prospect that's never going to play an NHL or never going to play an NHL game. That's your due diligence. That's your job. Not 100%. To talk to Evander Kane and bring another problem into your locker room when your team clearly isn't at the Stanley Cup level you think it is, when you're going to sit there and be like, I'm not willing to trade a first round pick, but I also think there's a Stanley Cup in our locker room. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. And then, we get to the defense here. I'm going to name like the four. I've been impressed with Evan Bouchard this year. He's 6th on the team in scoring. He's got 19 points, 6 goals, 13 assists. He's a +2, which is actually pretty good for a team that gives up so many goals when their 2 star players aren't on the ice. Then I look at Tyson Barrie. He's got 3 goals, 14 assists. That's not bad, but then he's a -6. That's when you start to worry about your plus-minus stat. Darnell Nurse, that contract might look a little bit risky in the next year or two. His new contract kicks in next year. He's really got to up his game. If you're making $9.5 million, you got to do better than 3 goals, 12 assists, and be a +1. Cody Ceci, 1 goal, 8 assists. He's a -6 again. And then Duncan Keith, 1 goal, 8 assists. He's a +2. Those are like, it's not impressive, man. And if you watch them in their own zone, they always look lost. They don't know how to get out of their own zone. They get trapped in the neutral zone all the time. The only time they really escape their own zone clearly is when the guy we were talking about, Connor McDavid, gets the puck and just goes, okay, I'm taking this into the other end. In the offensive zone, the Oilers defense is fantastic. With defending their own net and helping out their goaltender, clearing the front of the net, digging in the corners, fighting hard. It's not good.
No.
It's not good. All right. Have we torn apart the Oilers enough?
I think so. And I don't think we're tearing it apart in a bad way. I think we're really just being honest where this team is. And I think everybody kind of jumped the gun and kind of delivered this whole, this team is in a Stanley Cup contending spot. And this team is coming off of a sweep in the first round. I don't really understand where that idea came from. And they're kind of playing exactly how I thought they were. Like that 9-1 start was surprising in a bad way for me. It was like, whoa. This is crazy. They're going to get all their wins at the beginning of the season, then just kind of bomb. And hey, it's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah. So, you wanted to do a McDavid mock trade.
Yeah.
So I'll tee this up for you, and then I want to hear you. I want to hear yours. There's a couple things.
I got 2 options.
Yeah. There's a couple things I want to point out though. Okay. So I got them right here. The 2 questions I asked going into this, and we're going on the assumption that this takes place at the end of the season. So with a little bit of quick research, what would it take and who can take him? That's what you had to look up. Oilers currently, at the end of the season, this may change, but currently with a full roster, they would have $977,777 in cap space. McDavid makes $12.5 million a year until the end of 2025, 2026. So then with that knowledge, I had to take a look at teams that have something close to this available without moving a core player. So if I go to Cap Friendly and I look at projected cap space for the end of the season, the end of the year, you have the Nashville Predators at $10.8 million available, the Columbus Blue Jackets 10.8 available, Anaheim Ducks 11.1, Detroit Red Wings 11.1, Ottawa Senators 11.2, and Buffalo Sabres 13 million available. So if I'm McDavid, the only team on that list I want to go to is Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have to consider this. It's not just McDavid that's going to be available. There's going to be some free agents, and it's a pretty big free agency list this year. I'll just read you a couple of the names. Malkin, Subban, Giroux, Kessel, Letang, Fleury, Pavelski, Bergeron, Kessler, Giordano, Gaudreau, Radulov, Kotkaniemi, Boychuk are available so far. That's just looking at the first page of this free agency list. So a lot of things would have to happen for this trade. You'd have to consider if we brought this guy in, we probably can't afford any of these free agents. You'd have to see what this team needs. So what is your potential trade?
So first, I'm going to start off with my fantasy trade. This is where kind of my Leafs fan kind of comes in. So my first fantasy trade here is going to be Marner, Robertson, a first, and a prospect along the lines of Topin Niemiela, Roni Hirvonen, maybe a Matthew Nyes. You never know. For McDavid, just straight up.
Okay.
And I think you brought up the point of this maybe a team with the cap space making a trade for him, and I don't necessarily think that's the case. I really think it comes down to just a straight up hockey trade to a team that's closer to the closer to the Stanley Cup than a team like Edmonton would be. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I think if the Leafs don't make the third round of the playoffs here, I really think that Marner is the player that's going to get moved to make a big statement on this team. And hey, call me crazy, but I think moving a contract that's 10.8, maybe involving a guy like Kerfoot, maybe involving a guy like Engvall, just to add that little bit more of cap space in there, and bringing a guy like McDavid into Toronto, which obviously he would love to play for a team like the Maple Leafs. That's where he's from. So I think that would be a great fantasy trade. And on the other side of things, where it's kind of more realistic, I don't necessarily have a player or a trade for McDavid, but I think it really comes down to, I think there's really three options in this league and three teams that McDavid goes to. It's LA, New York, or Toronto. So
yeah, see, I think that too, but it wouldn't be soon. It would have to be when these teams have space available to make room for that guy, because that's a big cap hit. Oilers wouldn't retain. There's no chance they would hang on to any of that contract.
There's no chance. But I think I just named three teams that could move 2 to 3, maybe 4 players that could equal that $12 million to bring McDavid in. And I think that's three teams that have enough prospects and have enough skill on that team already. If you lose 2 or 3 of those players and bring McDavid in, I think you still have a team that's built for a Stanley Cup run. And you're bringing in McDavid. If we want to call him the best in the world, you can call him the best in the world, but you're definitely bringing in a top 5 player to a team that already has what you could say another top 5 player on that team.
Yeah. Like I look at a potential McDavid trade. It would take a lot. Like I said, it would take a team that has the space available. They would still probably have to clear out some space to trade for McDavid. The only team that could take him on without giving up any other players right now would be Buffalo, because they have $13 million in cap space.
And I just don't think that's happening.
And I don't think he's going to Buffalo. But yeah, it's something that is definitely heating up. Although we say it's heating up, it's been rumored for like the last 2 years now that he wants out of Edmonton. Will it actually happen? It's hockey. Star players typically don't demand trades out of their market, so I don't think it will happen. But we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely going to be an interesting thing to track. You mentioned the Leafs. Couple blown leads have happened. Not ideal as a Leafs fan. They've won a couple games, lost a couple games. I think the one that hurt the most was the blown lead to the Avalanche. I'm going to read some stats out for you. Leafs third period over the last 2 games. This was before the St. Louis game. 13 shot attempts, 51 against. 7 shots, 31 against. 4 scoring chances, 27 against. 0 goals, 4 against. That identifies that they have had a very, very weak third periods. Here's another one for you. And these are all courtesy of Sportsnet stats. Last night, Maple Leafs blew their 6th 4-1 lead of Game 7. Last night, the Maple Leafs blew their 6th 4-1 lead since Game 7 of the 2013 playoffs. No other team in that span has had more than 4 such defeats. Which was not surprising, to be honest, because the Leafs seem to blow 4-1 leads quite a bit. I think it's a curse. And then the last one here, it just lists them off. 4-1 blown leads by the Maple Leafs since 2013. Saturday versus the Avalanche, February 15th versus the Senators. They blew a 5-1 lead. Ottawa 5th, 2019 versus the Canadiens. October 29th, 2016 versus the Jets. November 27th, 2013 versus the Penguins, and May 13th, 2013 versus the Bruins. That was the colossal Game 7 collapse. Are you worried about all these blown leads, or are we overreacting like Leafs fans typically do?
I think it's 50-50, right? Like, you're always going to kind of be a little bit concerned when it comes to your team not being able to hold a lead, especially a lead like 4-1. I think we had this conversation on Twitter a couple of days ago. I don't necessarily think 5 blown leads in 8 years is something we should get all dramatic about. If you really want to pull up a stat like that, I'm sure you could pull up a stat like that about all 32 teams. If you really wanted to dig deep into it. Obviously, as a Leafs fan, and obviously it's going to be blown up to a proportion that's not necessarily normal. But I mean, yes, like I said, it's 50-50. Part of you is going to be concerned. Part of you wants to maybe think, hey, they just came off a bit of a lull in their schedule where they're off for 2 weeks.
They're off for 17 days. Yeah.
For 17 days straight. That's not practicing. That's not doing anything except working out in your house or wherever you are. So I mean, they went through Colorado. Everybody knows about how Denver is with the air and all that, the oxygen and all that stuff.
I swear to God, that's a rumor because I've heard that building is pressurized.
Which is fine, but I'm sure that does do something to an athlete, right? Like I don't know all the blah 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 with it and how it works, but I'm sure it does do something to the players. We've been here. I'm 24 and I've been hearing it all my life, so I'm sure there is something to it. But again, it is what it is. If you're gonna blow a lead, there's no difference between blowing a 2-goal lead, a 3-goal lead, a 4-goal lead, or a 5-goal lead when it ends up in a loss. It's all the same. I mean, they're still getting points. We want to bring up that Colorado game. Yeah, it sucks. It is what it is. You got the point. You went into Colorado where you're not getting a lot of points. I don't know what the ending of the game today was with Minnesota or Colorado, but right now it's hard to get a point against Colorado. And the fact that we got one is a positive. In my opinion, I'm more concerned about a game like we had against Arizona than a game we had against Colorado with the blown.
See, that doesn't concern me against Colorado because they would control that game. They had like 79% puck possession, and they had more than triple what Arizona had in the offensive zone. It's just you ran into a hot goalie. Although the Leafs do seem to run into a hot goalie quite a bit, and I think that is because when a puck is put on net by a Maple Leafs player, it's usually a clear look at it from the goaltender's point of view. They don't crowd the net a lot. But if you have, what did they have? 51, 55, something like that shots.
I think it was like 40. He had 46 shots, so 47 shots.
47 shots at the net and only one goes in. That's that makes me raise my eyebrows, but I don't know. Like that didn't concern me too much because I thought they played a hell of a game.
At the end of the day, they're going to come out the next game and it's going to be 3-1 after one. So this team has the ability to score 10 goals every game. You really want to think that?
I mean, and like we're all at the end of the day, like we love to overreact as Leafs fans. So I pull up the standings right now, and like they're a fantastic team. They're a top 5 team in the NHL. If you look at win percentage, I hope I can sort by win percentage. They're 6th in the league right now. They're played 36 games, won 24, lost 9, and then lost 3 in overtime. Point percentage wise, they would be 5th in the league with a 708 win percentage. Like that's, plus 30 goal differential. I don't know, like 7-2-1 in their last 10. It's better than the Oilers. Right, and like you look at the individual
Oilers slander never stops.
I know. You look at the individual play. McDavid, not McDavid. Fucking said the Oilers. You look at Matthews, who just broke a franchise record or tied it or broke it for consecutive road goals scored with 9. You look at William Nylander, who's putting up phenomenal numbers. He's having a career year, and he wasn't even nominated for the All-Star game. You look at John Tavares, who's just consistently a point-a-game player every season. He does it so quietly. Mitch Marner seems to have found his game back a little bit. He had a nice feed to Matthews in the St. Louis game on the power play. I'm not concerned. I look at Morgan Riley. He's playing well. I'm a little concerned with Jake Muzzin, Justin Hall, Rasmus Sandin. I'd like to see them give Sandman a little more responsibility. Nice to see Timothy Liljegren get his first NHL goal. Jack Campbell, again, Vezina candidate, probably Vezina winner. If I was to place a bet, I would probably put my money on the most consistent goaltender, which is Jack Campbell currently. Another goalie might catch a hot streak. But yeah, like there's not too much to frown upon on this team. And the one thing I am really happy with is Sheldon Keefe is holding them accountable and holding them responsible for, you guys can play better than this. And even after a win, he's like, no, I wasn't happy with that. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure you watched All or Nothing. We saw Joe Thornton say, Coach, relax, we're in first place. What did that do for you in the first round?
No, yeah, that will forever be something that kind of turned me off of Joe Thornton. I will not lie. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to be overly concerned with this Leafs team, but maybe don't blow leads because adds a couple of years to my life, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's just it would be easier on the team to just keep that lead and not have to worry about talking about blowing leads.
Exactly. All right. Olympic long list. Do you need a quick water break, or you get to just plow through here?
I think we're almost done here, so I think we can just plow through it.
All right. So the Team Canada, obviously the NHL isn't going to the Olympics, so they have to name some players who play outside the NHL. So I'm going to read the list of names that are on the long list, which means players that will most likely be named to the
This
team.
is the realistic.
This
long
is
list,
this is
right?
this
Not
is
that
the
fake picture.
No, this is the real list. And then we're going to talk about the fake one because that actually
Okay,
got me.
perfect.
That got
was
me for
hilarious.
it got me for like an hour.
Yeah, I was kind of like scared. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. So I look at it. Here's the long list: Cole Perfetti, Owen Power, Mason McTavish, Kent Johnson, Eric Stahl, Philip Desrosiers, I don't even know what that is, Cody Franson, David Dubnyk, Brad Malone, Jack Mabane, Peyton Krebs, Caden Gooley, Scott Wilson, Jack Quinn, Tyler Witherspoon, Michael Delzato, Brandon Leipzig, Adam Cracknell, Chris Terry, Josh Hosang, Chris Bygris, Cal O'Reilly, Devin Levi, Jake Vertanen, Jimmy Olingi, Matt Tompkins, Daniel Winnick, Jason Demers, and Daniel Carr. Love to see Josh Hosang on here. Just want to start that right away.
Yeah.
Two names on here who kind of make me raise my eyebrows, and why I think this list was actually leaked and Hockey Canada didn't want you to see it was Brandon Leipzig and who was it? It was Leipzig and Jake Vertanen, just because of the stuff that's happened with them off ice. Don't think they have a chance of wearing the maple leaf.
It's not a good look if they do.
No. Any players there stand out for you? Because seems like it could be a pretty good team.
Obviously, the young kids. Like, I think it's pretty cool that Hockey Canada thinks that these kids are good enough and have the trust in them and putting them into a tournament like the Olympics, where you usually don't see anybody under 25 or 24 or 23 really. So I think it's just cool to see that Hockey Canada has all these young prospects that are very good and they're ready to play in a high level tournament like the Olympics.
I like that Owen Power can be there. Like this guy could have a world championship and a world championship gold medal and an Olympic gold medal before he even steps foot in the NHL, which would just be absolutely outstanding. I look at Mason McTavish. I think that's a clear choice. This guy is just absolutely tearing up the OHL this year. He's now on my hometown Hamilton Bulldogs, so pretty happy with that.
100% too good for the OHL. He's that level of hockey right now.
Yeah. Eric Stahl is an interesting name. I think he could bring a nice little veteran presence there. Josh Hosang, just as we're Leafs fans, we're really cheering for this guy. I think that would really do a full nice 360 for him on his career to be able to represent Canada at the Olympics, come back, maybe sign an NHL contract. I take a look at Devin Levi. That's a nice little goalie pickup. He played well in the World Juniors the last couple of years. And then, Daniel Winnick, that could be fun. Let's see what he's still got, I guess. So
former Leaf. And I think a name that wasn't on there, I don't know if I just missed it, but it's Patrick Marleau. I think he would be a pretty good fit for a Team Canada at the Olympics. Yeah,
that could be interesting for sure. Now, let's take a look at this this fake one. Now, this fake one,
Joffrey Lupul-led Olympic team.
This fake one, in my defense, seemed pretty reasonable and plausible. And then I thought about it, and then I was like, hang on, this doesn't make any sense. So forwards, we're going to go line by line here. First line, Kent Johnson, Eric Stahl, Mason McTavish. I was like, okay, I can see that. Scotty Upshall, Mike Richards, Joffrey Lupul. Right there, I go, oh, Joffrey Lupul's back. He must still be playing in Europe or something, and he's ready to go. Then it gets a little bit, okay, how did I not notice this right away? Danny Heatley, Connor Bedard, Jordan Tutu. I was like, okay, Danny Heatley putting up 50 goals at the Olympics would be amazing, but I don't know, like, how sick would it be to see Heatley with Bedard? That would be fun.
Yeah.
Fourth line.
All over again.
Yeah. Fourth line, Daniel Winnick, Patrick Marleau, Chris Versteeg. I was like, okay. And then the last two forwards, Nigel Dawes and P.A. Parento. I'm like, sure, I guess, maybe. Defense, Owen Power and Mark Mathot, which I kind of laughed at. Shane O'Brien, Willie Mitchell, Caden Gooley, Kevin Bieksa of Sportsnet, and then Carlo Koliakovo of TSN and First Up, and then Dion Phaneuf, who I don't think has touched a pair of skates in 2 years. And then your goalies, Devin Dubnyk, Justin Pogge. I was like, okay, those two guys can probably still play. And then Freddie Brothway. which
Who's the
I-
goalie coach? I think
yeah, and he's also 52.
former winner, right?
Yeah, so this got me for like an hour because when I read it, I wasn't really paying attention. And then I messaged it and I read it over a couple times. I was like, hang on, this can't be real. And then I saw a couple of the players named on it, like honored to be suiting up for Team Canada. Can't wait to win gold and also host my radio show. I'm like, okay, I got.
Yeah, Mark Passat was tweeting about it because I think Mark Passat was on the one too, or on the roster.
mhm. But I think that team would be a lot of fun and could actually potentially medal. Just have a
Yeah.
3-week training camp. You're good to go.
Yeah, and there'd be a lot of drugs done.
Huh? Maybe. We don't know that. All right, let's move on. Last thing to wrap up the show, Montreal Canadiens, absolutely terrible team. It was the battle of the basement today in the NHL. Dumpster diving, one might call it. The Habs played the Coyotes and lost 4-2?
Not a lot. I think it was 5-2.
5-2, something like that. Yeah. Which is, I don't think the Coyotes have actually scored 5 goals this year, so that's embarrassing. Andrew Berkshire of the SDPN. Reminder, while watching this game, one team spent to the cap and thought they would make the playoffs. The other sold everything that wasn't nailed down to tank from day one. I was like, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Another tweet here, which is true. Like the Habs thought they were going to make a run this year after somehow fluking their way to the Stanley Cup final. And then I don't know what the hell's going on this year. Another one brought up by did Habs win? No, they did not. Dom Ducharme's overall coaching record in Montreal is 22 wins in 75 regular season games, a winning percentage of .293. This season, it's 7 wins in 37 games, a winning percentage of .189. That is brutal.
To say the least.
Like, I got another tweet, but let's talk about Dom Ducharme for a second, who always looks fucking confused, by the way.
He never looks like he knows where he is.
He's always, whenever they cut to him, he's always looking up at like the ticker, the scoreboard. I'm like, he can't see that, right? Like he's always just lost. He doesn't look like he knows what to do next. It looks like he's waiting for someone to tell him what to do. I don't think Dom Ducharme is an NHL coach. I don't think he's got the skill set, the mindset to do it, the confidence. There's no way the team has confidence in him anymore, even after going to a Stanley Cup final. So that's concerning for the Habs.
It's like, he definitely went to a Stanley Cup final, but like, did he go to a Stanley Cup final? It really seems like that's the attitude towards him.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like they won a playoff game against the Golden Knights with him not behind the bench.
Yeah. I think that says a lot.
So, fun fact I saw, I think it was Josh Anderson was injured, put on the injured reserve on January 7th. December 7th. One of those days, a while ago. And when he went on injured reserve, he had 7 goals, which led the team in scoring. He came back off injured reserve about a month later and was still leading the team in scoring. So I take a look at the Habs points here. You got Nick Suzuki, 7 goals. Jonathan Drouin, 6 goals.
Suzuki.
Tyler Toffoli, 5. Josh Anderson, 7. Dvorak, 5. Lehkonen, 4. Like, who the hell is scoring for this team? Because it's not Cole,
Dvorak, the guy who gave up a first-round pick for.
Yeah, it's also not Calder favorite Cole Caulfield, who is a -15.
Jeez, how many goals does he have?
1.
Wow.
Just brutal. Like this team, absolute joke. I don't know how they suck so bad. I look at their goaltending. Jake Allen is just barely above a 900 save. Bless Jake Allen's heart, man. Like this guy.
He's trying, man.
He's trying. I have all the time in the world for Jake Allen because he's had a hell of a career, but started 24 games, won 5, lost 16. 3.15 goals against average. Sam Montembeault, who was put in today because they pulled Caden Primo. He's 1-6 with a 3.78 goals against average, 897 save percentage. And then Caden Primo is 1-3, 4.11 goals against average, 883 save percentage. So goaltending's not any better. Let's say Carey Price did come back, or Carey Price was on the team this year. That doesn't solve the problem because nobody's still fucking scoring.
I think they're better than what they are now, but I don't necessarily.
He probably
think this
wins
team
you
is top level team.
by the end of the year. He probably wins you 7 more games by himself.
Yeah, 7 to 10 probably. I would say.
Yeah, by himself. Just like you can look at that game and say Carey Price won us that.
Well, you could say he won that team about what 11 of their 13 wins in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, sure, something like that. Like,
he single-handedly won that Leafs series.
yeah, Justin
The
Hall.
Leafs lost it.
Justin Hall Spinorama has something to say about that, and Alexander Galchenyuk's turnover also has something to say about that. But
good point.
Right, like, but we're going to be tracking the Habs very closely here because this might be one of the biggest fall from graces in NHL history, from a Stanley Cup final to the first overall draft pick next year because you sucked so bad. I think if you're this bad that you don't deserve the first overall pick, to be honest.
Edmonton says, hold my beer.
Well, exactly. One thing that they do have going their way, this is a loaded draft class. So even if they don't want to take Shane Wright at number 1, they do have a couple other options. And the draft is also in Montreal.
That's cool.
So
That'd be something.
I will be there. I want to go to that.
Hey, put it on the calendar.
I'll see you there, buddy. All right. This has been a fun show. Any last
it was good.
wise words of advice?
No, hey, if you're gonna be a leader, lead.
Help out your neighbor. Tow their
Be
truck.
a friend.
Shovel their driveway.
Wear a mask if you're gonna do a
Give
public
someone a ride.
display of I'm awesome.
Yeah. Make sure you bring your PR team with you.
Yep.
All right. That's just so funny. I fucking love just following Doug Ford's activities.
Yeah.
He's a walking meme.
Yeah, to say the least. Let's end it on that before we see anything that gets us fined.
All right. By who? All right. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at OSN Orion. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Josh _16 and TikTok on the same thing. What's your handles?
At Jarek Moore on everything.
Yeah. All right. I'm starting a new TikTok series. I got to post today's. I'm doing Sign Trade Wave on TikTok to get the people excited.
Just get the people's blood flowing.
Get them going. Bye, guys.